Today we're going to look at how to transform a linear function by following the transformation rules. So first let's look at the rules. When you have a reflection across the y-axis, you need to add a negative inside of the parentheses. When you have a reflection across the x-axis, you are going to have a negative outside of the parentheses. So you're going to multiply the whole function by a negative when you have a reflection across the x-axis, and when you guys have a reflection across the y-axis, you need to multiply the negative to the x. Now remember, there's 4 different transformations, so right now we're just looking at each one of them, and it tells you what to do for each transformation. So the first one is reflection. You need a negative. The next one is translation. So when they tell you to translate the function, you can go left or right. When you have an horizontal translation, you are going to need to add or subtract h. So h is inside of the parentheses. When you have a vertical translation, you need to add or subtract k, and k is outside of the parentheses. So we have a function, you're just going to have to substitute, you're going to need to add or subtract a number. Now remember that for h, you always do the opposite. For compression and stretch, we do have vertical stretch or compression, and vertical stretch and horizontal stretch or compression. So the horizontal one is when you have, first of all, the factor of b. So they're going to give you guys a factor. When b is greater than 1, it's stretch. When b is less than 1, or you can say between 0 and 1, it's compression. Now to make that transformation, you guys need to multiply x by 1 over b. So you have a fraction inside of the parentheses. When you guys have a vertical stretch or compression, your factor is going to be a. So vertical is for a. When a is more than 1, stretch. When a is between 1 and 0, is compression. And you need to multiply that factor times the whole function. So you're going to have a outside of the parentheses. So we're going to try a couple of examples how to transform a function. But first, let me show you guys, when you put everything together, we have the general rule. So the general rule is, you can see where the variables go. So you have a outside of the parentheses. When it's more than 1, it's stretch. When it's less than 1, it's compression. If you have a negative in front of the a, you're going to have a reflection across the x-axis. Here's the 1 over b inside of the parentheses. That's horizontal stretch or compression. And if you have a negative in front of the x, or the 1 over b, that's going to be a reflection across the y-axis. H is horizontal translation, and you always do the opposite. And K is your vertical translation. K is your vertical. So you just need to know where the numbers go, what to use, and remember the H, you always do the opposite. So let's try a couple of examples how to transform. So I do have a function here. The function given is 4x minus 2. And we want to write g of x with the following transformation. So f of x is vertically compress. So vertically compress, that's one of them, and by a factor of 1/2 or 0.5. Then is moves down 4 units, and followed by a reflection across the x-axis. Okay, so let's look at vertical compression. Vertical compression, since it's vertical, that means you have a, and it's compression because the factor is less than 1, is 0.5, which is 1/2. It says then move down 4. Since you go down, that's K, and it's negative since you go down 4 units. Now the reflection across the x-axis, that's when you have the negative outside of the parentheses. So you're going to have to add or put a negative outside. But let's go ahead and do the first two transformations, and then we'll worry about the reflection. So I'm going to have g of x here. For the first one, first transformation, vertically compress. A is outside of the parentheses, so there's my factor outside, and the whole function is going to go inside. So all of this function up here is going to go inside of the parentheses. So we have 4x minus 2. You have to simplify, so you're going to distribute. So g of x, when you multiply you get 2x, and when you multiply you get 1 over here. That's the first transformation. Then it says you want to move down, that's k, down 4. You don't change the sign of k, so you're just going to put that at the end of the function. K, it's outside of the parentheses, so we don't need a parentheses. I'm just going to subtract 4. Combine like terms. So g of x is 2x minus 5. But the last transformation they tell you is a reflection across the x-axis. Since it's a reflection across the x-axis, you need a negative outside of the parentheses. That means reflection across the x-axis. So here's my negative outside of the parentheses. And the function we just got, which is 2x minus 5, is going to go inside of the parentheses. Very important. It's a reflection across the x-axis, so with the negatives outside. You are going to distribute the negative. So the answer is 2x plus 5. G of x equals 2x plus 5. Now when you have a linear transformation, make sure you guys simplify. You just arrange, put the numbers where they go, follow the general rule, and then simplify. Let's look at one with a quadratic function. Now for the quadratic function, given f of x equals x squared, that's actually the parent function of a quadratic function. Quadratic because you have a squared as your exponent. It says write g of x with the following transformation. So f of x is horizontally compressed. So that's the first transformation we want to make, horizontally compression, by a factor of 1/2 or 0.5. And then it moves to the right 2 units, followed by a reflection. And here it says across the y-axis. So we have to be careful. Since we have the first transformation says horizontally compressed, horizontally means B. Horizontally compression is B. So the factor is 0.5, so that's 1/2. It says move right 2 units. So right is horizontally translation, so that's H, and it says 2 units to the right, so it's positive 2 for now. And then it says a reflection across the y-axis. So the reflection across the y means you need a negative inside of the parentheses multiplying the x. But let's go ahead and do these transformations first. So we have g of x equals b, horizontally compressed, is going to be inside of the parentheses. So I'm going to have a parenthesis here. I'm going to have a square. I'm going to use my fraction 1 over b. The factor in this case is 1/2. So we have x 1 over 1/2. In order to simplify the fraction, notice that we have 1 divided by 1/2. We have a fraction within a fraction. You just need to take the reciprocal of the denominator. In this case is 1/2. Reciprocal is 2 over 1. And we don't need the 1 on the bottom. So we have 2x, reciprocal of 1/2 is 2, and then we have squared, 2x squared. Now it says that you want to make move right 2 units. So h is going to be inside of the parentheses. H is going to be inside. So when we have h inside of the parentheses, and I told you guys that you always do the opposite of h. So here's my parentheses, squared. Always keep the exponent. Here's my 2x, and h is going to be the opposite. So we know it's 2. Opposite of 2 is minus 2. So when you plug it into the formula, when you substitute h, you do the opposite. And finally it says you want to make a reflection across the y-axis. So the y-axis is a negative inside of the parentheses multiplying the x. So we have g of x equals, here's my parentheses with the squared. I'm going to bring down the 2 here, and I need a negative multiplying the x. So negative x, there's a negative, same as a reflection across the y-axis, minus 2. You can multiply, simplify the 2 and the negative x. So we have g of x equals parentheses negative 2x minus 2 squared. So this answer here is saying that you are going to reflect across the y-axis. You have a horizontal compression of 1/2, and you move 2 units to the right.